You know, we all do it dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day, flipping our phones from portrait to landscape. It's so automatic, we barely even think about it. Until, of course, it doesn't work. Today, we're going to dig into why letting your website or app bend to the user's will isn't just, a nice little feature. It's absolutely essential. Oh, you know the feeling, right? You're lying on your side, in bed, you're comfy, scrolling through something, and bam, the website locks up and demands you rotate your phone. You try to fight it, but nope, it insists. So now you have to awkwardly shift your whole body just to keep reading. It's such a small frustration, but man, it hints at a way bigger problem. But here's the thing. That tiny moment of annoyance, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Because if we look a little closer, what feels like a minor inconvenience for most of us is actually a major barrier for other people. This isn't just about comfort, it's about access. It's about actually designing for everyone. And this is where the perspective completely shifts. For a lot of us, being forced to turn our phone is, a momentary frustration. Annoying, but we move on. But for some users, it's a complete roadblock. It's the difference between, say, navigating a slightly bumpy road and hitting a solid brick wall you just can't get past. So who are we talking about here, specifically? Well, think about someone whose tablet is mounted to their wheelchair in a fixed landscape position. They can't just rotate it. It's not an option. Or what about someone with dexterity impairments who finds it physically difficult or painful to turn a device? And then you've got users with low vision who might rely on landscape mode just to make the text big enough to read. For these folks, a locked screen isn't an annoyance, it's an exclusion. Thankfully, this isn't just a matter of good manners. There's a formal guideline designed to prevent this exact problem. It comes from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which you might know as WCAG, and it's called Success Criterion 1.3.4 Orientation. And here it is, the core of the rule, straight from the W3C. Basically, your content should not lock someone into a single orientation. But you got to pay attention to that last little bit, unless a specific display orientation is essential. That word essential is key, and we're going to circle back to exactly what it means in a second. So when you boil all that technical language down, it means one simple, really powerful thing. Let the user choose. It's their device, their body, their situation. Let them decide how they want to look at your stuff. Now, this brings up a really important distinction. If a user decides to lock their entire phone into portrait mode from their system settings, that's their choice. Your website should absolutely respect that. The problem, and what this rule is all about, is when you, the creator, force a lock that goes against what the user wants. That's the behavior we have to avoid. Okay, so the rule is don't lock the screen. But you're probably thinking about that unless it's essential part. Are there ever times when locking the screen is actually the right thing to do? And the answer is yes, but only in a few very specific, very logical cases. The W3C gives us a super clear definition for essential. So before you decide to lock an orientation, you have to ask yourself two things. First, would allowing both orientations fundamentally break the experience? And second, is there really no other way to make this work? If the answer to both of those is yes, then okay, it might just be essential. A perfect example of this is a banking app that lets you deposit a check by taking a picture of it. I mean, a paper check is a wide, rectangular thing, right? To get the app's camera to capture it cleanly and easily, forcing a landscape view just makes sense. It's essential for that core function to work properly. Or how about a piano app on your phone? In portrait mode, you could only fit, like an octave of keys on the screen? That's pretty useless for playing an actual song. The app needs the width of a landscape view to feel anything like a real piano keyboard. So again, the orientation is essential to its function. This whole idea even extends to technologies like virtual reality. The screens are literally fixed inside goggles in front of your eyes. In that case, the orientation can't change relative to you, so locking it is just part of how the tech itself works. All right, so now that we get the rule and its pretty logical exceptions, how do we put this into practice? And, just as important, how do we avoid the common mistakes? According to the W3C, there are two classic ways to fail this guideline. The first one is obvious. You just program your app to lock the orientation. Simple. The second way is a little sneakier. You don't technically lock it, but you throw up a big message that covers the whole screen and says, please rotate your device. Functionally, that's the exact same thing. You're blocking the user, and that's a fail. So, what's the bottom line here? The big takeaway is to design for both portrait and landscape by default. Always remember that forcing an orientation isn't just an inconvenience. It can be an act of exclusion. And if you think you really need to lock it, be super tough with that essential test. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to one powerful idea: respect the user's choice. So, as we wrap this up, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about for your own projects. Does your content put the user in control, or does it force them to adapt to you? In other words, is your content built to bend?